hearing of the rules of the chief, Rule 15 regarding firearms and license to carry is called to order. The time now is 10:01 on October 4, 2022. Okay, I am Assistant Chief Len Hayashi, and I'll be chairing the hearing this morning. Assisting me are HB Senior Legal Advisor Mrs. Lynn Wema, Deputy Corporation Counsel Mr. Daniel Gluck, Major Joseph Trinidad, and Captain Parker Bogue. This meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live on YouTube and on our social media pages and website. We are also streaming the hearing outside our station to accommodate members of the public. Thank you to everyone here today for taking the time to participate. Before we start taking testimony, I'd like to go over a few points of order. In order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons wishing to provide testimony will be called based on their position in the line that has been set up outside on Veritania Street. Testifiers will be brought into the room after passing through our security screening. We're asking everyone to sign in so that we have a record of who has testified regarding these rules. Due to limited space in the room, we're asking that you leave immediately following your testimony. You can monitor and listen to the rest of the hearing on the 2 monitors outside. This is a public hearing and an opportunity for you to provide comments on the proposed changes to the rules of the chief. Unlike a town hall meeting, we will not be answering questions at this time, but merely accepting your testimony, comments, and opinions about the rules. The testimony you provide will be given full and fair consideration. Procedurally, no final decision will be made today. If any substantial amendments are made to the proposed rules after this hearing, notice will be given and the public will be given another opportunity for input on the proposed amendments. If no substantial changes are made to the proposed rule after this hearing, the rule will be forwarded to the mayor for final approval and signature. At 12 o'clock, we will be taking a lunch break. We are currently in receipt of testimony sent in via postal mail and electronic mail, and will include those testimonies as part of the record. Okay?
So how this is going to work is we're going to start with the front row. Gentlemen, to my right, your left. We'll work our way down, and then snake back around to the gentleman in the back corner, and then it'll just be in a clockwise manner. So, sir, you can come up to the microphone. You have 2 minutes to testify. Please state your first and last name.
Good morning. My name is Jim Hochberg. On September 30th, I submitted about a 6-page testimony going through the 30 pages of changes. 2 minutes doesn't give me time to go through it. Would you please read it? I'm an attorney. I, together with Michelle and Associates, have pretty much concluded a case that Mr. Gluck is opposing counsel on, Livingston versus Logan, which it's now called, asking that the Bruin law would be applied here in Hawaii. So please read my 6-pager. Well, I just want to bring up a couple of things that are very intriguing to me. Yesterday, the United States Supreme Court, in a Massachusetts case, Morin versus Liver, took cert, vacated a Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that upheld the denial of an acquisition license in Massachusetts based on, in 2004, the plaintiff had a conviction for unlawful possession of a firearm. The Supreme Court of the United States yesterday vacated that, reversed, and sent it back because the undue burden test, which is what you're faced with, and that's one of the big problems that my co-counsel and I see in these proposed rules. The undue burden test appears from yesterday's Supreme Court to be something that is going to fall as heavily on regulating the Second Amendment as it has for 50 years on protecting abortion. So I just want to make sure that you please read my testimony. I don't have 2 minutes. And the other thing, too, is on behalf of everybody here, in the most loving, kind, full of aloha way I can say this, you work for us. You invite us here to talk about your proposed change, and then you limit us to 2 minutes, which is wholly inadequate. I would ask you instead to exercise a kind of an arbitrary standard if people are wasting time. But let us come and talk about a 30-page document for however long it takes. Thank you.
Yes, 2 minutes. Hey. Kevin J. Cole, Colonel, United States Air Force, retired. The government trusted me with weapons. I used to fly B-52s. I looked at these rules. You wouldn't place these on people to vote when you place similar rules for people to exercise the freedom of speech and worship. That had been done in the past. These are hurdles. I am a citizen. I am not the threat. I am the guy who wants to support things. Yes, I've held a concealed weapons permit when I lived on the mainland. You know why? My wife is a local. We had a little run-in with skinheads. All right? The threat is real, but if I'm the one that should determine whether the threat applies to me. Nobody else. It should not be arbitrary. I am the responsible one. I am the citizen. I am the guy that has to look out for my family with your backup. I'm on your side. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Mike Elliott. I'm a retired naval officer, a commander, a local business owner, husband, father, grandfather, and avid gun owner and shooter for my entire life from a very early age. I've been a lifelong NRA member for about 30 years and a Hawaii Firearms Coalition life member. The Second Amendment is a fundamental right. It's been treated like a second-class right in this state for decades. And there's been continued attempts to deny people's ability to carry. And with the rules that were in place for all these years, when the Bruin decision came down, the day after that, under the existing rules, there was no reason that permits could not have been issued under those rules, because only one thing changed. It went from may issue to shall issue. So people applied with the current requirements as they were, but then all of a sudden we got letters saying, hey, we're working on it. And now a new set of rules has come out. And it puts us in a situation where we have testing requirements within 90 days of application. Test with where, with who, written test. The mental exams that are being asked to be done. The 60 days out of state and come back and take a mental test. You put yourself in a situation where people are in a constant cycle to try to maintain a right. A one-year term is not long enough. Most states have a 5-year term for concealed carry. They don't have some of these other burdensome requirements. And I do recommend that you look at some of the states, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and some of the rules and how they've managed this and how it's worked for them. I have 2 non-resident concealed carry permits from Utah and Arizona. I never even went to those states to apply for them. I did them via mail. I filled out the application. They verified everything. I received that. I was back in Georgia last year, or this past April, when the constitutional carry rule went into effect. You know what happened that day and the days after? Nothing changed, but people had a choice to be able to carry. And I just recommend that you look at changing these to be more accommodating. Thank you.
Hello and God bless. My name is Helamano. I operate a firearm training school on the island of Oahu. We certified over 900 people to carry, as he mentioned, non-resident permits using Utah and Arizona. With that said, I'd like 3 points I'd like to comment on this meeting here today. A level 2 holster, which you folks are requiring students to train, is one of the most deadliest holsters in the world to use. I don't allow it on my gun range. No other major or minor firearm training school allows a level 2 because it's not only a duty holster, it's a law enforcement holster. Is it a good holster? Yes, but you need training in order to use it to be safe. It's not very concealable either. Number 2, 49 other states do not require their students to shoot farther than .357. A few states allow them to shoot at 10 yards, but rarely as long and far as what you folks are pretending to do here. So what I'd like to suggest is that you keep it at 3, 5, and 7 yards, as the other 49 states do. Now, there might be a few here and there that don't do that, but the majority, 99.5%, train their students 30 rounds, 3 yards, 5 rounds, 7 yards, including some of the states that gentleman mentioned. Third, the requirement for a lawyer to teach the class, I think, is a little bit out of hand and out of place here. First of all, as an instructor, since the Brady Bill was put into place, the instructors here in the state of Hawaii are required to teach state gun laws. Those gun laws are on the website for all citizens to see. Firearm laws for training, firearm laws for carry, also the use of deadly force is online for everybody to see. As a firearm instructor, we've been teaching for decades here the laws of the state of Hawaii. You should allow us to teach those laws as we have been for the last several decades. So the impact that would have on students and instructors like myself financially could be tremendous. A lawyer doesn't work for less than $1,000 to $500 an hour. If you have a class of 20 people, he's not going to charge one person charge to do that. He's going to charge for the whole mess. So I think you should revisit the concept and allowing us to do our job to teach gun safety and to teach gun rules here in the state of Hawaii. God bless America and God bless all of you. Mahalo.
Good morning. My name is David Nicolani. I'm a certified NRA range safety officer, and also NRA certified firearms instructor. There's a lot of these new rules that I do oppose, but one that I would like to point out is your folks level 2, or what you folks call a type 2 holster. In the state of Hawaii, it's going to be very new for people to see us, or don't want us to be seen with our firearms. But level 2 holsters are usually made for you folks, people who are on duty, which will expose the firearm to other people who are around. What we do want to use is our inside waistband without any retention other than the holster itself. One, for safety, for pulling out and drying. And two, there's no such type holster as an inside waistband level 2 retention holster. I have called Safariland and spoke to one of the representatives, and they thought I was crazy for asking that kind of question, but I did explain to them that it's one of the rules that our state is trying to implement. I also have emailed CNG holsters as well too, and they also replied to me that they have no such holsters whatsoever as well. The second rule that I want to oppose is the tests that you folks want to implement as well too. You folks will input whatever you folks also will deem is necessary for us residents in Hawaii to learn as well, where there's already tests being implemented and used around the nation. We can all already take classes, our concealed carry classes here in Hawaii, and we are certified to go out to 34 different other states to carry, but for some reason Hawaii wants to implement more questions, which is, I guess, stated unconstitutional. Thank you for your time.
At this time, I will pass because they had answered my questions to you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marcus Tanaka. So I'm here to testify on my wife's behalf. She can't make it, she has to work. So she's concerned how the shooting qualification would affect pregnant women. In order to qualify, you have to shoot up to 15 yards and you have to practice to do that. That means going to a range and having a unnecessary exposure to lead, other chemicals that are being breathed in for pregnant women, a woman who has a fetus growing in her stomach. Just like how don't smoke when you're pregnant, don't drink alcohol. Anything the mother ingests can be transmitted to that unborn child. And then, no, the women can wear ear protection, no problem. What about the fetus? Will the loud gunshots affect the child in the stomach? Can't put an ear protection on them in there. And then, on top of that, the women have to do this every year. So women who are breastfeeding, again, will be exposed to lead and other chemicals through inhalation, and will that transmit to feeding milk to the child? I've had friends who they consumed alcohol and they were told by the doctor to pump and dump because that milk supply was tainted with some alcohol, which you don't want to give to your baby. So you're asking basically, pregnant women or nursing mothers to choose between having to do the qualification without any practice at a live range or their self-defense to protect themselves, their unborn child, or their baby they're carrying. So, we don't agree with that. And then say the mother does decide to go to the range and there is some kind of birth defect. Is anybody here going to help care for that child who has a birth defect? Is anybody here going to help pay for the additional care that child with a birth defect has? The answer is no. It falls on us. And thank you.
Good morning. My name is Reginald Eubanks. I've been fortunate to be a resident of Hawaii for 20 years. I've done everything Hawaii has asked me to do in the time that I've been here. As far as anything regulatory, they asked me to get a guard card. I got a guard card. If I needed a pistol certification course to buy a pistol, I took the pistol certification course. Now the problem is cost, okay? These little things add up over time. You can't sit here and tell me that the class is going to be free, because it's not. The test, if you fail it, you just fail, you can't come back. All of these things, weigh in on us little folks just trying to make it. All we're trying to do is protect ourselves, and this process makes it very cost prohibitive. The second thing I'd like to touch on is it discriminates against people with disabilities. There's no way an older person or somebody who might be somehow disabled but can still fire a weapon is going to pass that test. It's just too hard. So somebody needs to take a look at the actual shooting test, the written test, and make it reasonable. 43 other states have gotten this right already. Why can't we just follow what they've already come up with? And then the last thing, it's been touched on, but the holster choice is ridiculous. You're going to make me put a gun on my hip because there's nothing inside the waist that's level 2. And if it is, it's crap if you find one. You're going to make me put a gun on my hip. Then you're going to penalize me if somebody sees it because it prints. That makes no sense at all. So let's please take a look at the regulations as proposed. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Joel Berg. I'm a 9-year veteran. I've had a out-of-state carry permit for 6 years and a flawless criminal record. And I've reviewed the proposed rules for applying for and receiving a carry permit on Oahu, and they've left me disappointed. Anyone qualified to obtain a pistol has already taken a state-approved firearm safety class and would not have a disqualifying mental health condition nor a criminal record. As such, anyone able to attain a pistol should be more easily allowed to obtain a carry permit because it's already established that they're a responsible individual. Of particular concern is the shooting proficiency test with a focus on speed. Civilian carry permits present an opportunity for the most vulnerable members of our community to protect themselves. The frail, the elderly, and women are increasingly being treated as a cash crop or worse by our career criminal class. Likewise, these individuals would find the shooting proficiency test most difficult to pass. Inability to fire a pistol, like an Olympic competitor, does not make a person unsafe to carry a firearm. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to reiterate that a well-armed society is a polite society. Thank you.
My name is Ruben Keli. I have a 3-page testimony, much of it which echoes some of the points that were already mentioned. So I will not go through the analysis nor the recommendations, but ask your patience as I read the preface. The Second Amendment decrees that the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Law-abiding citizens should not be restricted from the right to keep and bear arms to protect themselves, their loved ones, and other law-abiding citizens from those who would inflict serious harm or death upon innocents. Infringement can come in many forms that include unfair or overly burdensome regulations, requirements, fees, and costs that are excessively difficult for some citizens to bear. These citizens might include retirees, single parents, single income families, and those on Social Security, etc. Areas that are declared sensitive by government should have security provided to equal the effectiveness and timeliness of law-abiding citizens permitted to carry guns had they been allowed to be in these areas. The failure to do so should place the government morally, financially responsible to the victims. Victims should be compensated for loss of income, medical and funeral expenses incurred during the attack in these areas. Thank you for your time and your patience.
Good morning. My name is Kimo Galan. I've been a resident in Macaulay for about 20 plus years, living with my wife, and we've seen a lot of things go down, especially even the past year. Got 2, 3 car chases. Prior years to that, you have stabbings down the block, right across the street, shootings right in Alawai Park. So going backwards now, how am I going to protect myself from these types of people, especially these car chases or anything like that? How am I going to protect myself? I need to be armed with something, right? Now, with all these rules and all these things that he's trying to put out, it's going to hinder my ability to carry these things. I won't be, as far as money-wise, I'm not going to be able to pay for all these kind of classes. Proficiency-wise, I don't have time and money to pay for ammo to get to these classes. As much as I want to, I can't. I got to work. I got laid off from a great job, COVID. No, I had to work at UPS, FedEx. I'm in a better place now, which is good. Got another guy back into the retail, but still, it's not better than what it was. It's not as good as what it was. All these things are gonna help. It's not gonna help a lot of us that can't do make the requirements. Practice is a lot. When things get better for me, I'm gonna take the classes from the HRA, from HFD, and whoever, if I can get to Butch's classes too. That as a responsible gun owner, that's what I'm gonna go for. Because I want to be responsible. I want to be able to know what I'm doing, properly think. Of course, at the high, there's times that's like high stress situations, that's tough because that's what you guys go through. But at the same time, I want to be prepared. I want to be able to make the best decision. Even if I don't draw, then that's fine with me if I can get away from it. But like I said, all these things are gonna keep us from being prepared for the worst. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Haslam. I'm 75 years old and I lived on a fixed income in urban Honolulu. I'm a retired U.S. naval officer with a rank of commander, and I owned a firearm for more than 20 years without incident or violation. I've long been concerned about my perception that violent crime is increasing in Honolulu, including the illegal use of firearms. I've stopped going to various locations after dusk, and some like Chinatown during the day, because I don't think they're safe. I welcome the opportunity to protect myself by exercising my Second Amendment right to carry a firearm outside my home. I was excited when the Supreme Court declared that the U.S. Constitution guarantees an individual's right to carry a firearm outside the home. I was equally encouraged when the Attorney General of Hawaii clarified what could no longer be used to determine the right to carry. But instead of just removing those requirements from those that existed for decades during which no permits were granted, instead of removing only that, all of a sudden there are new requirements that were never existed before. Written tests, shooting tests, additional hours of classified classes by certified instructors, and all the accompanying paperwork, forms, and signature. Most of these classes, etc., are not available today, won't be available soon. Additionally, I'm going to have to renew this every single year. I don't believe these new requirements are necessary. I don't think they enhance public safety. All they do is increase the obstacles and they infringe on my rights. And I think, respectfully, that's their intent. Thank you for accepting my testimony, along with my brothers and sisters, millions of them around the nation who are supporters of the Second Amendment. We are the gun lobby. Thank you very much.
Ready? My name is Brian Loro. I'm a retired policeman from Ohio. Spent 20 years in law enforcement, 33 years in public safety. I'm a NRA concealed carry instructor. But more importantly, we all, as citizens here, have a right under the Constitution to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which includes being safe, which includes self-defense. And unfortunately, one of the things that we see here is that our government here has bastardized self-defense. They've changed the interpretation of lethal force, and they've changed the interpretation of our right, and these things can't be taken away from us. It is your constitutional right. It actually says in the Constitution that you have a right to bear arms, and it shall not be infringed upon. Infringed upon means that it can't be infringed upon in any way, which means the regulations to make us certify or qualify like a doctor or a nurse to do CPR is like telling us we have to train like cops to have concealed carry as a civilian. The responsibility and the duty is not the same. The provisions, the holsters and whatnot are not the same. You're not going to be fighting over your gun. If you're drawing, you're shooting. It's just the way concealed carry works. You're not going to stand there and hold a gun on somebody like a cop would, because all of a sudden you're going to get shot when they show up. There are things that have worked in all the Republican states. They just don't seem to work in the Democrat states. And one of the problems is our crime rates and our violence is going up exponentially. The way COVID was mismanaged has caused enormous safety issues, mental issues. That doesn't mean that we take that away from the good people. Bad guys are always going to have guns. We've got to make sure that we afford good people to defend themselves. And then when we see the government taxing and imposing costs that are absolutely unreasonable, ridiculous, violates or infringes upon the right that we're supposed to have. So I just ask that we be reasonable. We are civilians. You know, I'm retired now, so I'm still a civilian, but I understand that we have a right to protect people. We are 300 and some officers down on HPD. They've proven throughout the island, and especially even our worst neighborhoods, but even in Hawaii Kai where I live, that our right to do this, we're having home invasions in Hawaii Kai also. We need to be able to protect our people. We need to protect ourselves. All right? Aloha. Thank you.
Aloha Kako. My name is Dr. Lee Shannon from Kaneohe. I'm a research scientist and a military special operations officer licensed as a civilian to carry a concealed weapon in 36 states for over 26 years. I conducted a thorough review of the proposed changes to Chapter 15 of the HPD rules. Substantial revision is required prior to adoption to ensure the rules are constitutional, enforceable, unambiguous, and efficient. The rules contain approximately 8 critical flaws, 5 undefined key terms, 12 arbitrary administrative requirements, and multiple unconstitutional provisions that I've outlined in 19 sections in my previously submitted written comments. The proposed changes appear to have been directly copied from guidance for law enforcement or security guard qualifications, a fundamentally different purpose and manner of carry than civilians exercising their right to lawful self-defense only. These proposals significantly infringe upon the rights of our most law-abiding citizens and expose them to capricious legal risks when they try in good faith to comply with these regulations. Most concerning is that the bar for revocation of an approved license is exceedingly low, in some cases for minor deviations or noncompliance of unnecessary rules not related to safety. I understand the impulse to heavily regulate items such as firearms. However, available hard data as a scientist show concealed weapon license holders in mainland states are convicted of crimes and firearms violations at a rate 6 to 12 times less often than even sworn law enforcement officers, and that strict gun control policies in Hawaii have not caused a decrease in homicide or violent crime rates over the past 6 decades. Finally, I must point out that the existing rules used to issue carry licenses are still in effect. Any assertion that current rules need to be revised is just not true. The Bruin decision makes clear that the use of subjective discretion by government officers in issuance of carry license is unconstitutional. Declining to grant licenses in Honolulu County under the current law pending completion of this discretionary administrative rule review process is clearly contrary to the law. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Tuason, and I'm here to basically testify on behalf of the 2A community. Can we all agree that that Hawaii is part of the United States, correct? We can agree upon that, right? So if we can agree upon that, why are we as citizens of Hawaii being treated as second-class citizens? What I mean by that is we are not being afforded the right and ability to arm ourselves. I am a concealed weapons permit carrier for 2 states, okay? 2 states. My record is spotless. I served 24 years in the military, yet I am unable to get a permit here. Why is that? Am I a low-class, second-class citizen? Are we not part of the United States? Do we not follow the same rules? The Constitution already says that we have the right to bear arms. Does it not? So why are we making it harder for us to exercise our right? The requirements you guys are putting together are basically making it impossible, as many have stated already, for a common person to be able to conceal carry. Do you require those requirements of your officers? Because if you do, I'd like to see them pass the proficiency test that you have put forth, because I guarantee you, they will have problems with it, okay? So all I ask is that you, as the governing body, treat us as citizens of the United States, as citizens of Hawaii, which is part of the United States, give us the ability to exercise our right and be treated as equal as everybody else in the United States. Thank you.
So just as a reminder, if you guys could please step up to the mic, just so everybody can hear.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Tenehiro. I stand on my written testimony in opposition to the proposed revisions to Chapter 15 of the Rules of the Chief of Police. A particular problem I have is with the supposed good moral character subjective measurement that is outlined in Section 15-24, Standards for Issuance of License to Carry Unconcealed Firearm, subsection 3, located on page 22. In it, the provision states, quote, "The applicant must be of good moral character. Being of good moral character means that the applicant does not exhibit specific and articulable indicia that the applicant poses a heightened risk to public safety." This is an intrinsically subjective definition that's subject to the Chief of Police's sole discretion or their designated representative. Other factors outlined in subsection 4 of the same line, in provisions A through D, are also inherently subjective. A very troubling part is in 15-24(4)(e), where it just says other factors. Other factors is also intrinsically subjective and could, again, mean whatever the Chief of Police or their designated representative believes that would counteract the standing of a good moral character. That being said, I urge that the police chief does not amend the rules, that they keep the rules in place as they are in their current form, issue current and future concealed carry weapon licenses in accordance with the current Chapter 15 provisions. And if there are going to be any procedural changes, that it be done through an official act carried out by the legislature of the state of Hawaii. This is reason being is because there's actual committee hearings that are subject to public testimony and would serve as a true measurement of a vehicle of democracy that we all deserve. Thank you for your time.
Aloha kakahiaka. My name is Frank T.K. Henshaw. I'm a 32-year-old resident of Honolulu, born and raised here, graduate of Kaimuki High School and UH Manoa Scheidler College of Business. I also served in the Hawaii Army National Guard and the U.S. Active Army. I'm here today in support of the Second Amendment and allowing the people of Honolulu to carry open and concealed, and I would like to share a quote. But an officer on duty knows no one. To be partial is to dishonor both himself and the object of his ill-advised favor. What will be thought of him who exacts of his friends that which disgraces him? Look at him who winks at and overlooks offenses in one, which he causes to be punished in another, and contrast him with the inflexible soldier who does his duty faithfully, notwithstanding and occasionally wars with his private feelings. The conduct of one will be venerated and emulated, the other detested as a satire upon soldiership and honor. And now I have a certified letter from that I'd like to share from November 30th, 2021. Dear Mr. Henshaw, this letter is to officially inform you that your application for a license to carry a concealed firearm has been denied. Your application expressed the need to carry a concealed firearm to protect yourself and your family. Your wife is a principal witness and key individual in the arrest of a person of interest in a brutal attack that has left her friend and hired assistant severely beaten and hospitalized. Even though this person of interest is in state custody and has been served a no-contact order, you feel that it is not enough to keep him from retaliating against your wife. However, your application did not indicate any credible threats to you or your family that substantially exceed the needed possessed by ordinary law-abiding citizens. Your application does not sufficiently meet the immediacy, urgency, or need necessary for protection of life and property as required by Chapter 134-9 of the HRS for the issuance of a license to carry a concealed firearm. Chapter 134-9 of the HRS deals with firearms and the issuance of licenses. If you or those around you are placed in danger of bodily injury by word or deed, the police department should be contacted immediately so that proper action may be initiated. Should you have any further questions, sincerely, R.K. Vanek. Thank you.
Good morning. I signed in as anonymous. I submitted email testimony, and here I'd like to just present highlights of the email, which is applicant needs to submit a doctor's report attesting that the applicant is physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy. Applicant needs to submit insurance coverage to cover damages or death to innocent party. Applicant needs to undergo rules of engagement training, when to pull a gun, when not to pull it, when to shoot, when not to shoot. And the permit have to be renewed periodically, cannot be good for life. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Lionel De Los Santos. I support concealed carry. I noticed for the past years now, crime has been up. And there's a lot of shootings, killings, and murders. I opposed the chapter 15 because it will use up too much time, money, and we do registered firearms already, so I don't think we need to go any more than more paperwork for everybody. Well, that's it. Right, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kevin O'Leary. Basically, I think you guys are on the right track, so I'm not here to disagree with your changes in your procedures. I mean, who better to be concerned with hundreds or thousands of concealed weapons walking around on our streets than the HPD? You had your procedures in place over the years for a reason, obviously. Responding to a crime in progress, in which a perpetrator is identified as armed and arriving on the scene with several guns either drawn or being fired is truly a nightmare for law enforcement officers, to say nothing of the rest of us. In the past, our county chiefs of police have made sure that this scenario does not become a commonplace occurrence. I believe the HPD, although it is no doubt following the advice of Corporation Counsel, needs to take a stand here. Instead of bowing to the Supreme Court on the Second Amendment issue and concentrating on where a concealed weapon can be carried, HPD must reject this finding and maintain its original procedures on the issuing of concealed weapons. Stand firm against this illegal judicial overstep. Yes, the department will be sued, but you guys are going to be sued anyway. Believe me, you know it. Everyone knows it. By the Second Amendment hardliners, some of whom have testified today, who will not accept any restriction on their right to carry weapons anywhere they please. Putting this matter in the courts will delay the necessity of making these procedural changes and draw public attention to this critical issue of public safety. Like I say, you're going to get sued anyway. Go for it. Just tell them no. Abortion was illegal here. Was made illegal by the Supreme Court. It's still legal here. So stand up. It's for your own protection and the rest of us. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Elima de Costa. Mahalo for allowing me to testify today. I want to share with you a photograph of my daughter, Elizabeth, who was shot and killed in the back of the head by her husband's gun. He has never been adjudicated, and she is now dead. So I wanted to testify in reference to the proposed chapter rules. As a mother who lost her daughter to domestic-related gun violence in 2015, I support reasonable laws and rules that have been shown to be effective in reducing gun violence, including instances involving suicide and accidental discharges. The proposed rules, while seeking to be consistent with the current political trends, do not go far enough to ensure that the most vulnerable in our communities, youth, elderly, those living with disabilities, and those involved in domestic violence situations are not unreasonably exposed to injury or death by the accidental or purposeful discharge of a firearm. In addition to the rule already proposed, I recommend the department consider the following. Under Section 1513, extended business hours for Wednesdays. Maintaining the business hours for each day of the week should be consistent. There's not any governmental purpose that should be served by extending the hours for Wednesday, so I object to Wednesday hours being extended to 6 p.m. Many of us work, many of us are licensed, I'm licensed. We still have to follow the 7:45 to 4 p.m. or 4:30 rule, so extending the rules to the time to 6 p.m. on Wednesday is unreasonable, and taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for that. Loaning so under number 2, under Section 1514, loaning firearms to minors. The proposed rules are not reasonable, and based on the recent events at the Boy Scout camp, the lack of a clear process for ensuring that the adult owner of the firearm is properly insured leaves a gap in ensuring that the adult loaning the firearm is held accountable. So, is my time up? Oh, okay. I will stand on the rest of my testimony that's already been submitted, but I will just remind you that Hawaii is safer because we have had stricter laws regarding concealed carry, and I hope that the state or the county will maintain those rules and restrictions. Mahalo.
Good morning. My name is Erica Yamauchi. I am the mother of 2 children in public schools here in Honolulu, and in my professional roles, I work in children's mental health for the state and am an instructor at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm also here before you today as a gun violence survivor and volunteer state lead of the Hawaii chapter of Moms Demand Action, and would like to publicly support the proposed amendments to Chapter 15 of the Rules of the Chief of Police. After the Supreme Court's dangerous decision in Bruin undermined part of our state's concealed carry licensing laws, I'm grateful that the Honolulu Police Department is taking these steps to keep our communities safe by ensuring licenses only go to people who are properly qualified to carry a gun in public. The proposed rules provide a strong list of reasonable factors that should be considered before allowing someone to obtain a license to carry a concealed weapon in the city and county of Honolulu. They also provide a very clear explanation of the application process, the objective factors that will be considered, and standards for denials and appeals. The factors and investigation steps described in the proposed rules are reasonably designed to minimize the risk that someone who poses a heightened risk to public safety not be allowed to carry a gun in public. The application process could be further strengthened, however, by also contacting recent employers, character references, people who live in the same household, and/or current or recent significant others. And while the proposed training requirements are a strong step forward, ensuring that people applying for a license to carry in our communities have received appropriate training, the training requirements could also be further strengthened by mandating that lecture sessions must be in person, including live fire instruction and safe handling training, by including secure storage practices in the training, and by making sure that the training covers the known risks of owning firearms. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
I'm glad Erica is as short as I am. Good morning. My name is Deborah Nemad. I am testifying on behalf of myself and the Hawaii Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence. And I'd really like to offer my appreciation to the police department for a really good start with the rules. But of course, I've got some proposed changes that I think could make them stronger. I have submitted those in my written testimony. And what I'd like to bring to your attention here is an issue I haven't seen anybody talk about. And I don't know if I don't think it's within HPD's purview, but I want people to be aware this is a concern. 13 states on the mainland now permit permitless carry. That means there's no background checks, there's no training required, and there's no requirement that people know gun laws. So how do we know that people coming into the state who probably have complied with TSA and stored their unloaded firearm in their luggage, how do we know that they're bringing it into the state other than an honor system? And the rules require that people bringing firearms into the state register within 5 days. How do they know that? And how do hotels know people are bringing in weapons? And how did the hotels lose their right to tell people, lock up your firearm, you can't keep them here, we don't want you to keep them here? And how do they know that there's no right for non-residents to carry concealed weapons in Hawaii? So they won't be able to do that, even though they've been able to do that where they come from. And I just read statistics this morning in a recent report that crime with guns is up 29% in states that allow permitless carry, and homicides with guns is up 13%. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for keeping our community as safe as possible, and continue to do what you're doing and keep us safe. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Swan. I've been in the retired from the military after 31 years. I've been on numerous deployments where we did carry weapons all the time, 24/7. And again, that came with qualification training. We had locked up, and we had leadership oversight on all the ages of people. One comment was made earlier about accidental discharge. I don't believe in that. No such thing as a negligent discharge. If a person is properly supervised, trained, that weapon will not go off. So just one point I want to make, and we held people accountable anytime that weapon went off. The challenges I see here in Hawaii, I have a concealed carry in New York for over 28 years, and the only reason I had that was required. They did not want to see the weapon. I come from the West. We carried weapons all the time, exposed, and it wasn't an issue. But again, that took some getting used to in New York, and it was for me to get to where I was going to use it to hunt or to target practice. But with that, I've heard everyone talk about their freedoms, but with freedoms, we require guidelines. It's to protect you all, protect the public, and protect anyone that has a weapon. So I'm in favor of being screened, having mental health checks. I know over time, even my own eyesight going, reaction time going, and it's something that at one point in my life, I'm going to realize that I'm really not capable of hunting anymore, and I'll just go out with everybody else and enjoy the time out and experience. As far as self-protection, again, it's a close environment. You have to be able to identify and respond and make sure you know where that bullet's going. And we're in some tight quarters here in Hawaii, and I don't think people take it on consideration on where these guns are discharged. And unfortunately, we were in the area where those two officers were killed at the end of Kapolani Park, and I heard those gunshots, and I knew exactly what was going on, and that is so unfortunate for their police department to put up against that. With that, thank you.
Okay. All right. My name is James Wilkie. I've been a resident here in Honolulu for 10 years. I'm originally from Arizona, and when I lived in Arizona, I was a concealed weapons carrier. And I have the pros. Is what's nice is the criminals won't know who's armed and who's not, so they're going to think about before they create a crime. And then on the con side of it is you're not going to, some of the laws are going to be unenforceable. I mean, you're not going to have metal detectors on the bus. You're not going to have metal detectors in every retail store. I mean, if you're carrying it concealed, you can walk into any store and they're not going to know whether you're armed or not. And that's really all I have to say. That's the pros and the cons. And what is it? The 3 laws of firearm safety. 1, don't ever point it at anything you're not willing to destroy. Treat every weapon like it's loaded, whether you know it or not. And number 3 is always be sure of what's beyond your target. Aloha.
All right. Good morning, Chief, Major, Captain. Thank you guys for your time. Just a little background about me. I'm retired military, served 20 years, retired 20 years in 2020 with honorable service. So for me, I served on the Maritime Safety and Security Team, which was stood up after 9/11 to protect our ports and all that. One of the jobs that we had to do was before POTUS would visit any other, like Mar-a-Lago or Guam, our unit will get shipped out to secure the area that he or she was about to visit. And we were highly trained in that. Also, another unit that I went to after that was a Coast Guard cutter out of Seattle. And my job was pursuit team. So we were the guys on the small boats chasing these drug dealers who had millions of dollars of drugs, $1 million of cash out there. And we were the ones who went out there and secured our waters so that we could keep America safe. Now, my issue with some of the rules that I see, I was a concealed carry permit holder in Seattle. We could open carry in Oregon without any background checks. And we felt safer because we knew that someone was out there, a law-abiding citizen with a rifle or a handgun was out there to protect us. I have 3 kids out there in the hallway right now. And for my job for 20 years was to protect everyone else, non-blood related, no relation. I didn't even know their middle names. But for me to protect my kids, my family, my right is being hindered. And I understand there needs to be a lot of regulations because it is a serious thing that we're about to do. We're moving in the right direction. But for us to say that, my body type is different from yours, Chief. So to put restrictions on holsters and the type of guns we can carry is just hindering the printing when you conceal carry. There's a lot of rules and regulations that's coming out that I think we need to really address before we, say yay or nay to this. But thank you guys for your time.
Aloha. My name is John Diadamo. I think the way the law is written now is the way the permit should be, the concealed carry, open carry permit should be issued. If you want to change the law, it should be when it's changed. But right now it should be issued because the law states it should be. Because right now you only need a handgun safety class or hunter's education and follow the same way you gotta apply for a permit, acquire a permit. So I think the way it is written right now is the way it should be issued. And then if you guys want to change it, it should be changed later. But right now it should be issued. There shouldn't be no stopping it. It should be issued. And I don't see the reason why it's not issued now, because the law says and the regulation says it should be issued the way it is. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this time and this testimony, this opportunity to testify. My name is Livingston Hodges, and I'm a 27-year combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I've deployed weapon systems throughout the world. I've been a concealed carry permit in other states. I do believe what the gentleman just said, that the current regulations are just fine until we come up with something else. We should pass it by law. Currently, the proposed rules, I do believe, actually target veterans, and the fact that I have lived on and off Oahu for over 22 years, and I've had to leave for military service. I recently retired in 2019 and returned. If we go on with the 5-year rule of, you know, not having to go be evaluated by a doctor, that would be some kind of concern for me. I have registered firearms ever since I've been here, and I've gone through all the required steps as needed, and always signed off my HIPAA rights to be evaluated, my mental records evaluated. So I've been labeled as stable. I believe that we should take a hard look at how we actually do these things. I understand the concerns of the public. I understand it. A lot of people also cite that, you know, the firearm regulations are great here, and they say, hey, we have less crime because of the laws that we have. True, but they seem to forget several things. One, geography. We're on an island. Two, the culture of the people here, and the demographics of what you have here on this island. That's why you have less crime when it comes to gun crimes, not so much that your regulations are there. Additionally, I'd like to say that I support your efforts and what you do here. I pray for you daily. I pray for your wisdom, that as your leadership, as you continue to move forward with the department. I pray for all the officers' safety as they're out there every day. Thank you for this time.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Arthur Mercero. Like other people that you've heard from, I've served in the military, and here I am in this room surrounded by people who are carrying non-concealed weapons, and I feel very, very comfortable and safe. Why is that? Because I know you people that are carrying guns here know how to use them, and you keep yourself trained on that. Can I be assured that the people that are in this room with me that are carrying arms concealed know how to use them? I don't think so. The average person, from what I've seen, and I know what it takes to shoot a pistol to hit a target, if you don't keep in practice. So you know, so my fear is being in a public place that allows arms with a bunch of people. I have no idea who's carrying these things and whether they know how to use them. I don't consider myself safer because of that rule. And if I'm carrying a gun and I want to go into a bank that the city council has designated as a sensitive area, what do I do with my gun? Do I leave it at the door? Is somebody going to be there, like in the old Wild West saloons? Or do I leave it in my car and invite the car thieves to get a bonus of a loaded gun in addition to a stolen car? So these are my problems with the, with the possible problems of enforcement of this thing. Whether or not it will make us safer, I don't know. The data doesn't show that is necessarily true, that allowing citizens to pack iron is going to make us all safer. So because unlike the average citizen, I can trust people like you who I know are trained and keep trained on using something that's designed to kill. And that's the only way I could ever feel comfortable under this rule. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Alex Rivera. I served in the military. I was an officer in the military. I took an oath to protect the Constitution when I joined. And Constitution clearly says, and I know people don't like to hear the actual Constitution, but it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The people. Definition of infringed is to encroach upon in a way that violates law or the rights of another. The right to defend myself is my right, my human right. There's no race involved, there's no department, there's no district. Every politician also takes an oath to the Constitution. The right for me to walk down the street and be secure in me being able to protect myself. And now this is not just a gun issue. The guy downtown just got shot in the head from someone, a criminal, owning a firearm. What prevented him? The same laws that are in place right now. Suicide still happens. In fact, suicide went up during the prevention with the exact same laws that are in place right now. The person on the Big Island that got kidnapped by knife point, same laws in place, it still happened. Criminals do not follow the laws. And I understand, I respect the police department, I really do. But the right for me to defend myself does not make me different from you defending yourself. And if I live so far away that you can't get to me, and I live pretty far away, it would take a while for a police officer to get to me. I want to be able to protect myself because I can't wait 5 minutes for a police officer to drive up to my house if someone is coming after me, if I'm jogging down the street and unarmed. By my house, I had 2 people already, incidents where someone claimed to have murdered somebody up the road. True or not, I don't know because I wasn't involved in the case. Police weren't there. So, Constitution, I took an oath to protect it, and our politicians and the chief took an oath also. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jason Guzman. I just want to say that criminals don't follow the rules. That's what makes them criminals. So why should we make our citizens jump through hoops to obtain a concealed carry weapons permit? The law-abiding citizens is the ones to go and apply. Criminals won't. They'll just do whatever they want. Also, the proposed performance tests are unconstitutional. It's not fair to those who are injured or who have disabilities. Also, having to register each firearm doesn't make any sense because, well, to register each firearm for concealed carry because, what if a firearm is down for routine maintenance or if it's broken or inoperative and then now I can't, carry a firearm to protect myself. Also, places where concealed carry, we should not limit the areas where we can concealed carry. Those areas that are being proposed is the public domain, and that's where criminals lurk and operate. The lawful citizen who is concealed carrying, they can deter or stop criminal threats in those areas. Firearms are the great equalizer against those who have a more difficult time protecting themselves, the elderly, the weak, those with disabilities, and whoever else may need extra help. So I just want to say that please consider the safety of the law-abiding citizen and not empower criminals by making it difficult for the people to protect themselves, their family, and the public in general. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning. I'm Tom Stanisolovich. I'm a law-abiding citizen who has been issued to carry a permit in the state of Pennsylvania where I have previously lived. That license has saved my life. I was held at knife point while I was walking in the city at night by a child, frankly. This boy was probably 14, 15 years old and was asking for my wallet. He was holding a fixed blade knife and was closer than from me to you, sir. Thankfully, I was carrying. I was able to point my weapon at this man, or boy, and he backed up and took off. I did not want to shoot that man. But had he proceeded, I would have had to. I didn't want to take that chance because, frankly, I think that kid is in a bad situation and needs the guidance that he needs. Thankfully, I was able to give him another chance, and he was smart enough to let me give him another chance at life. In the past year since I have moved to Oahu, there have been at least 4 violent incidents in incredibly close proximity within 2 blocks to my place of work and my home, including a man having his hand chopped off outside of a convenience store 2 blocks from my apartment, and a murder. That murder occurred on December 16th, 2021, which had a round fly through the front window of my store, the store that I work at. Thankfully, no one was injured and that the store was closed. However, the bullet traveled on a path that would have very likely hit either a customer, myself, or my coworkers. I actually have the HPD report number. It's 21-527648. Those are a couple of the reasons I would like to carry a concealed firearm. In 2013, the CDC reported that firearms are used between 500,000 and 3 million times annually in self-defense. I understand my time is up. I have one more fact I would like to share with you all. concealed carry permit holders commit crimes at a rate of that which is between 1/10 and 1/6 of police officers, who they themselves commit crime at a fraction of that of the general population. So speaking to that, I am less likely as a concealed carrier holder in the state of Pennsylvania to commit a crime than any of you. Frankly, I trust all of you and don't believe that you're going to commit a crime, but the statistics do show that. Thank you. God bless.
Aloha. Can you guys hear me really quick before my time starts? Okay. So my name is Jessica Chiazzo. A lot of people know me as Priya. I am here today speaking to address your proposed rules and regs of the Chief of Police. I was going to point by point through your document and go through it, but it turns out almost the whole document is unconstitutional, as per Bruin and Heller. Bruin specifically states that any law or limitation to keep and bear arms must have historical precedent from when the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791 or re-ratified in 1868. The burden is on the state rather than its licensing officer to prove these rules, and ultimately limitations are based on those historical precedents. Justice Thomas wrote in Bruin, "The right to keep and bear arms in public for self-defense is not a second-class right, subject to an entirely different set of rules than other Bill of Rights guarantees. As per Bruin, the gun permitting and registration system, on the face of it, unconstitutional. Bringing your firearms to the station to be inspected is unconstitutional. Requiring people to bring medical evidence to show they are worthy of owning a firearm is unconstitutional. Turning in your license at the end of every year is another bureaucratic hurdle that can be used to trip up a legal gun owner and deny them a license." Speaking of the mental health letters, one of the state's leading provider networks has stated, although the law does not require them to release health information to HPD, it is not required doctors to give a medical clearance determination. Per Hawaii News Now, the police department is the only organization who can evaluate an individual's fitness to acquire or own a firearm. Healthcare organizations, providers do not make these evaluations. The statement from Kaiser explained, "This request is blatantly unconstitutional, as there is no legal standing for this rule. These rules and regs are nothing but a bureaucratic end run to the citizen's constitutional right to own a firearm." Do your jobs, read the Constitution, read the law. You guys don't want to be the bad guys, but right now, infringing on people's rights, that's exactly what it appears to be. And for that, I yield.
Good morning, ma'am, gentlemen. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide oral testimony on these rules. My name is Justin Solomon. I'm a current armed guard on the federal side. I'm an NRA certified instructor. I hold a current concealed carry permit for the state of Florida. I have previously held positions as a range safety officer, a range master, and a active duty Marine. There are a few major issues that I've got with the proposed rules, mostly due to safety. The first issue that I've got with it is the Type 2 holster being concealed. The Type 2 portion, first of all, can be hung up by the clothing that you're wearing, preventing you from being able to draw the weapon. The Type 2 portion of the holster is also what would make it print much more easily than any other holsters. That's why Type 2 holsters are generally not concealed carry holsters. I would change the wording to say that it needs to be not Type 2, but sorry, right now I can't remember the word. The other issue with the Type 2 holster, the main safety issue that I've got with it, is that a holster can cause a weapon to fire unintentionally. This happened recently at a USPSA competition in which the competitor, his shirt fell down into his holster and his shirt caused the trigger to be pulled, which, because it was a competition holster, it didn't end up going into him, it went into the ground.
But you can see if someone was concealed carrying that same holster, it would have shot him in the groin, is what it would have happened. Now, the easiest way to take a holster and make it type 2 is to have a Velcroed piece of cloth go over the top of it, and I can see that's what most people are going to end up doing, because that's the easiest way to conceal something. But that's also the least safe, and what's going to happen is that piece of cloth is going to go down into the holster, and you're going to get a lot of unintended firings into people's groins. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
So I had State Rep Martin stop by my house yesterday evening. She was educating me on her platform and asked her what she's doing about the growing crime on the windward side. She was beaming, and she told me about the new bike registration that she'd been working on over the last couple of years. And even though I'm thrilled about the bike registration, I asked her if she'd ever heard of the Michael Armstrong case, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. She needed a reminder, so I, of course, told her about it. And as I remember, after punching one of your officers, he was released in Capital A. He then beat Linda Johnson to death on your guys' steps within earshot of your guys' precinct. Michael also assaulted one of my family members at an Eva Beach mental health facility prior to this day. It's wrong and dangerous for repeat offenders to be let out into the community to continue to hurt people. It's shameful. And there's not a lot being done about it. In fact, this year we had a bill come to through the legislation trying to actually allow more people out. Instead of having bail, we were going to let more people out. And luckily, Uncle Ige vetoed that. But I'm sure it'll come back through. I think we as citizens are interested in caring for a few reasons. I think the first reason is that we don't feel safe. It's no secret that response times aren't what they could be. And the reality is when you need help in the moment, you can't wait 5 minutes. You can't wait 7 minutes. And so when you have people who are being released into the public who are not following the laws, why wouldn't you enable us as people who are following the laws to protect ourselves? I think it's wrong that Linda didn't get a response time, even though she was on your guys' steps. And I think you guys should enable us to be able to protect ourselves. Some of the legislation that you guys are proposing with the holsters that don't work and the classes that don't exist is not only unconstitutional, but it's not possible today. I'd urge you guys to please allow us to protect our aunties and protect our families by ourselves, because sometimes you guys aren't able to protect us.
Aloha mai kako, o Noella Napoleon. I'm from the island of Oahu, Ku'u'one Hanau. I fear that, well, we all fear. Hawaii is changing at such a radical pace, and we're all scared out here. Nonetheless, I do not condone carrying weapons for the average person. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a business owner of over 27 years. I have had people walk into my store and assault. I've had it done. But the answer is not more guns. I've also had a family member shot to death. And we're not talking about, I hate bureaucracy, and I hope all the responsible gun owners are not burdened with more bureaucracy, because it sounds like all the people here are very responsible. That's not what this is about. This is about everyday people who don't have proper training, arming up. And as we know, violence occurs in the heat of the moment. And statistically, in the state of Hawaii, if you're gonna fire a gun, you're gonna be a man between the ages of 18 and 30, and you're gonna shoot a family member or a friend. And it often involves a romantic triangle. How do I know this? I've done all the research myself. So I believe, like the other guy, we need to get to the heart of the problem, which is rampant mental illness, which we are not taking care of properly. On the streets, you all are responsible, HPD, but the issue is deeper. It has to do with mental illness, which is rampant. And because we considered it our right to let people go on the street and be naked and defecate and throw things at other people in Waikiki and on the street every day and commit crimes, it wasn't one of these responsible gun owners that came into my shop. It was a street member with mental illness. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is William Nixon. I'm ex-military, Naval Academy graduate. While I was in the military, I was qualified as a nuclear weapons delivery pilot, which meant I could load, carry, and drop a nuclear weapon in time of war. I was considered very responsible, and I don't think I've changed since then. Recently retired airline pilot. I was going to talk about the constitutionality of some of the items here because I took an oath that I stand with because it doesn't have an expiration date. The lady in black did everything I was going to say. So I have a few administrative things in here. It talks about 60 days if in 5 years if you live somewhere else, but it doesn't define, is that a rolling 60 days? Is it a calendar year? Is it 365 days from the first day you live somewhere? And is it continuous? Or if I rent a cabin for 2 weeks in a mountain somewhere for 5 years in a row, that's 70 days. Do I suddenly now have to go to California and go, hey, my cabin, apparently I'm a resident now, and I have to get all the mental evaluations? And I'd like to see that just clarified. And one of the last things in talking about the different databases that you're going to look into, the last one says basically just any database as needed. And so we don't particularly talk about like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Of those databases going to be needed? Do I need to give you my accounts for those so that you can look at them? Is there going to be evaluation? You know, finally, I just listened to a attorney that argues before the Supreme Court, and he said for sensitive places, which are going to be coming up and have to be defined, he says it's very simple. There's only 4. There's courthouses, there's legislatures, there's polling booths, and there's schools for students only that you can't carry. Those are the 4 that have traditional historic meaning. And so I'd like to keep that in mind when we start talking about sensitive places, because New York's getting their butt kicked over this right now. Okay, thank you very much.
Morning, ma'am. Officers, thank you for allowing us to speak here. Why are we here? We're here as a constitutional matter, the decision in Bruin. And what happened? We're an island, but we're not an island of laws. We're a United State that happens to be an island. So what does that mean? Why are we here? Because since the inception of Hawaii, it has not followed the United States Constitution. That's why we're here. There's no other way to look at it. The Supreme Court said so. So we have a fresh start. All I'm saying is let's be a beacon of hope for the future. Let's get in line with national policies. Let's make ours, we have a chance to do it. Let's do it right from the beginning. Why am I here? Because I carried I had a permit at 20 years old. I was carjacked. You are looking at me. This isn't hypothetical. You're looking at someone that is alive, that has been in a gunfight. How many here have been in a gunfight? And that's because I had a permit at 20. I do not believe at this stage 20-year-olds should have permits. It should be 21. I have a law degree. I was a military police officer. I've seen it from so many different angles. So what we're doing here is the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, they both specifically said states are taking objective things and trying to make them subjective again, trying to do another way around, putting delays, putting unnecessary burdens. What does an itchy butt that I had 10 years ago have to do with me getting a pistol permit? Because right now you're requiring me to give all of my medical documents to the police department. What qualifications does the chief or anyone on the board have to decide medical? Sanity is decided by the courts. Medical issues are decided by doctors. I think it should stay there. That's where it should be, so we can all work together. The police can do your police enforcement, the medical people do their jobs, and I don't believe there should be open carry. Concealed carry, yes. You don't want people walking around and whose gun is bigger and confrontations. So this is about doing this together. This is about doing a fresh start. Let's look at other states that have been successful. And thank you guys for your service, and mahalo.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning, PM Azinga. I'm actually a candidate for Hawaii State Legislative District 30, which includes Kalihikai, Hickam, Ford Island, Sand Island, and Pearl Harbor. And I have to ask a question. What is so important about the Second Amendment? And it really boils down to three particular points of which I'd like to share with you. First of all is the protection against the protection of the citizens against a tyrannical government. Second of all, it's the protection of citizens against for their ability to protect their own individual self. Third is the protection against invasion that would be either foreign or domestic. As a matter of fact, I learned to shoot rifles at the time right here on Hickam Air Force Base. I was a member of the Girl Scouts, and I became a marksman at the age of 13, learning safety rules and regulations of how to safely use armament. And I believe that it is within our power to teach our young people and citizens of how to actually use the weapons in non-adversarial conditions and under safe conditions. Mahalo and aloha.
Good morning and aloha. My name is Dale Johnson. I'm the branch manager for Loomis Armored here in the state of Hawaii. I started in the armored industry in 1982, and I've had a great opportunity to work in 10 different states for this company. As a result, I've had a chance to see numerous other state requirements and regulations. And my request today is different than most because I'm coming at it from an angle of how we have a current situation of not being able to license our people. The recent closure of Cocoa Head and the inability to go ahead and recertify my employees and any future employees is making it extremely difficult for us to operate. And as a result, we're unable to renew current licenses and requalify new ones. I currently have employees with expired permits, and I have others that will soon expire, which means we can no longer use them to perform the job they were hired to do, and there are currently no alternatives to resolve this problem. Reciprocity is essential to our industry due to the constant movement of cash and coin in between states. But in Hawaii, there's no reciprocity even between the islands and the counties. Reciprocity would allow us to transfer trained and licensed employees from other islands to help here in Honolulu. However, the Honolulu Police Department does not recognize and honor the credentials which the chiefs of police from the other counties have sanctioned as being sufficient for the counties. Please consider the following urgent requests. Allow Honolulu to use the same course of fire that has been approved by all other island counties and chiefs of police. This has already been presented to the Honolulu Police Department and it should be under review. Please provide an extension for renewing firearms due to the range closure. We ask that you allow reciprocity between islands and the use of any, if necessary, to present temporary licenses or extensions. We would appreciate this consideration. Aloha.
Good morning. I'm going to read from here so I can get through it quickly. My name is Walin Christian, born and raised on the island of Oahu at 54 years old. Majority of my ohana have handled weapons, whether it was someone being in the military, hunters, law enforcement like HPD, and collectors. I myself also am an owner of firearms and believe in and defend the U.S. Constitution. Like most of the people who have given their testimony and yet to do so, I have gone through the protocol of what the state of Hawaii has required to obtain training, classes, permits to acquire, and registration of my purchased firearms. This state is probably one of the strictest in our nation. Yet our crime rate is at an all-time high, not by the law-abiding citizens that you folks are trying to infringe on, but by the criminals that do not care about the rules and laws of our land. Sorry, I lost my place. This justice system has protected more of the criminals than they have of us, the law-abiding citizens. My brother, who just passed away, got mugged, got threatened, and had to defend himself against a gang of young punks in the past, and we had to go to his rescue. My vehicle got stolen right in front of my home in my neighborhood, and crime is at an all-time high. My daughter is afraid to walk at home at night when needed. Crime happens in less than a couple minutes, and one thing I will ask is please read the Second Amendment rights, even those who are watching. Know your rights. Our Constitution is what we live by. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning, my name is Van. I'm a Iraq-Afghan veteran, private security contractor, and former task force officer on our border. I actually came out to Hawaii to retire to escape the border violence that we were incurring and encountering on a daily basis. That being said, the only thing that keeps a population together is homogeny between our citizens and our police. Between the current policies that are trying to be passed in Hawaii, I feel that HPD could probably lend a better ear to the Hawaii Firearms Policy Coalition and also our fellow citizens before we descend into any more darkness and before a lot of us that have been sitting on the sidelines have to be brought into play. Thank you very much.
Good morning, James K. Monaco Sr., concerned parent, grandparent, great-grandparent. Gang, what's happening? Yeah? We have to follow the law, and I appreciate you folks, yeah? But what is the law? Today, we give a law that says that if I go on top of my reef in Waianae or any place, yeah, they are allowed to shoot me because now they own public land. So my problem is we need help. We need to have these people that want to carry guns. I never did. Well, I'm a hunter. That's the only time I carry one gun. But I never did that kind. I never had no problems. Yeah? I went to school. Anybody went to Kalakaua? Everybody heard of Kalakaua Intermediate? I got kicked out of that school. That's how terrible I was. But with good parents and the help of you guys, I went to detention on plenty of times. But anyway, the problem is this. We have a state constitution, and it says two things: access and gather. Access means wherever we need to go in the islands, we're allowed to do that. It's in the state constitution. What we cannot do is take something that belongs to somebody else or destroy things as you go to wherever you're going. And I have never done that, nor have I ever taught anybody to be that stupid, because that's stupid. I mean, really. You go destroy people's places, they're going to get mad at you. If you take care of places, guess what? You're just going to be like me. Every time when they see me in the mountain, they tell me hi. But the problem is, these people have to understand our laws, our state constitutional laws. And remember now, it just says two things: access and gather. So please make them understand that we're not there to steal from them. We're there to gather things that are on the reef or fishing. So we need you guys' help. And, you know, as a hunter, I only carry less than 7 bullets, and that's all my gun can hold. But I don't need that much bullets. Anyway, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Ronald Livingston, and part of my questions is, are you going to consider any of the previous training and education that any of us have had? I've been an NRI certified instructor since 2004 and worked with lessons in firearm education from 2004 until they closed the range in 2019. And we held 2 classes a month teaching people how to handle guns safely so they could get their affidavit to purchase a handgun. Also, I shot several years with USPSA, where if you broke any of the safety rules, you were disqualified from that match completely. Your restrictions on the type of holster we can carry limits how and what we can carry too much. If you want us to be concealed, we have to be able to conceal it. And some of those holsters are not really strongly concealable. And that's basically what I'm concerned with. And your renewal every year, have to requalify every year. I've held out-of-state permits before, and they were good for 5 years. And you could just renew it. You didn't have to requalify every time. Okay, thank you. You have a good day.
Hi, thank you for hearing us this morning. My name is Soleil Roche. I strongly oppose the proposed changes to the County of Honolulu's permitting process for carry permits. I am the executive assistant to the CEO at Active Self-Protection. I am an NRA certified pistol instructor. I'm also a certified range safety officer, chief range safety officer, Masada Yub Group deadly force instructor, and also a certified pepper spray and less lethal weapons instructor. One of the many things that the company that I work for, one of the things that we do is analyze surveillance footage of real life deadly force encounters. And we have a library of hundreds of people from all over the world who have little to no firearms training, winning gunfights all the time. Hundreds of people from all over the world where they would have otherwise been victimized if they had not been armed with a gun. Our permitting process here in Hawaii should not prohibit people like them from protecting themselves with a firearm. Personally, I and 2 children were assaulted by a man experiencing a violent psychotic episode in Kaneohe. Verbal de-escalation did not work, and although I was physically capable of outrunning him, I couldn't abandon the children that were with me. Thankfully, the pepper spray that I was carrying at the time diminished him greatly, and he immediately wanted nothing to do with me or the kids. I share this defensive encounter to point out that no one came to my rescue. No one came to our aid during the attack, and once I had already stopped the threat myself, it took responding officers more than 6 minutes to arrive at my location. If my pepper spray hadn't worked to stop the attack, the police would not have gotten there in time to save us. I alone was the person present and capable of defending myself and the children with me. I am a firearms instructor, and I get hundreds of hours of firearms training in every year, and yet I have been denied a concealed carry permit twice already by the County of Honolulu. If the county won't issue me a carry permit, then who? The proposed amendments to the permitting process are unconstitutional and outside the scope of the county's laws. Permits should be issued based on the laws that are already in place. The county's permitting process should not prohibit our community's most vulnerable individuals. Yes, my last sentence, thank you. Our county's permitting process should not prohibit our community's most vulnerable individuals who are statistically most likely to be victimized. from obtaining carry permits for self-defense. You're not keeping the community safe by denying us a perfectly legal and constitutionally protected right. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Charles Christian. I come before you this morning with what might be a little different perspective on this issue than some of the folks who have came before me. That is because every day I go to work, I inevitably encounter people who have been the victims of violent crime. People who would have the ability to defend themselves might be in far better circumstances. That will not happen with your proposed rules. They are illogical, they are unconstitutional, and they are discriminatory. They discriminate against any owner who would prefer to carry a revolver as opposed to a semi-automatic handgun. They discriminate against our kapuna, many who are veterans. They discriminate against those with disabilities, physical disabilities, pardon me. And more importantly, they discriminate against those who are having economic hardship. The Second Amendment isn't for the able-bodied and the affluent, it is for everyone. Thank you.
Morning, panel. My name is Franco Calvi, and thank you for providing us this opportunity to speak about the Second Amendment. I've lived all over the country. I've been in 55 states, 55 countries, and probably almost 50 states. I lived in Arizona. I have a Arizona-Utah permit, and it's good in 39 states, and if I get the Florida concealed weapon permit, I'd be good in 49 states except Hawaii. You can briefly see this map. All the blue is reciprocity states. And I also have all my training, all my records here, and I'm here to protect the Second Amendment. I'm a Vietnam vet. I've handled weapons. My father used to ride with the police. We've always had guns. When I have guns at home, I teach my children how to clear it, all the gun safeties that there are. And, our forefathers wrote this Constitution 235 years ago. It's the oldest Constitution in the world because they prayed about it, and God blesses this country. I fought for those rights to carry a weapon, and that's what I'm here to protect. And the people in Ukraine right now, if they hadn't had any weapons, how could they beat Russia and China? Except God be with them. Sorry to say, God is not in the United States anymore. I'm praying that he comes back. But right down the street here, 8 babies being killed every day. And it's right down the street from the police station. But and you want to take away my guns, take away the scalpels from those people killing those babies. I'm a Christian. I don't want my tax dollars going for murder. And now they can wait 15 minutes before they kill the baby. If I kill my son at 15 years old, I go to jail. But that's another subject. But I pray that you guys would give us the rights that I fought for and allow people with the training and previous experience to carry weapons. Thank you.
Aloha, good morning. My name is Robert Lowe. I'm the GOP 37 Precinct 1 president. I just like to point out a few facts. We all carry life insurance. We all carry auto insurance. This is just having a weapon on you is insurance to protect yourself. Everyone has the right to do it. We shouldn't have to ask anyone. I'm very pro law enforcement. Very pro law enforcement. I think you guys should be paid more. I think we should have more officers in Honolulu. We're short. Having that said, citizens being armed protects everyone and helps you. We need to be working hand in hand. I was offered a position as under Chief Nakamura and couldn't do it because I was in school. I was offered a sheriff's position, couldn't do it because I had just graduated from school. So, you know, to me, everybody has a right, especially retired officers. You know, why can't they carry? It doesn't make sense. A lot of the proposals that you have, they don't make sense. We just need to make them make sense. I was involved in a couple incidents. We had a escaped felon run out of the Alakea courthouse. I ran him down, brought him back to the sheriff's. Okay. I have backed up an officer with a firearm. Not many citizens can say that. We had an incident in front of my house. The officer was outgunned 5-1. I evened the odds with a .30 carbine. You know, these situations, we don't know when they're gonna happen, but they do happen. And citizens need to be able to back up other citizens and LEOs. With that said, aloha.
Good morning, everyone. I've been here for almost 19 years now, on and off. I was in the military, served overseas, did some detainee operations, was carried a firearm with some law enforcement stuff I did out there too. Had my concealed carry in Washington State, and the proposed amendments that y'all got going on right now would definitely harm more individuals than it will hurt. It definitely harm more of us that's wanting to carry, and it won't help us. It won't help anyone. And the question I ask y'all: are y'all willing to give y'all's medical information out to everybody? All your medical information? Are you willing to adhere to the same standards that you want us to adhere to? And I would be willing to say 90% of y'all won't do that. I spoke with the officer out there just now before we came in. He was like, you know, I believe everybody has rights. Well, that's true, yes. And he's like, I want to go home every day. We want to go home also when I take my children out. I homeschool my children. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. But I also want to take my children out and be safe that I can come back. Y'all always talking about y'all don't have enough police. And first of all, I don't want police at my house at everywhere I go. But at the same time, I also want to be able to defend my family if needed. Because the way I was raised, a firearm is the last resort of everything. But it's also there as an insurance, as the gentleman just pointed out. You have a fire extinguisher in your house to put out the fire. You don't go, oh, I got a fire. Let me wait for the fire department to come. Do you? No. So us being able to carry, and us being able to carry what we want to carry, is something that we should have. And I would say this much in closing right here. From one of our founding fathers, he says, the laws that forbid carrying of arms are laws of such a nature. They disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit such crimes. Such are better for assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides, for an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers. And I do support that we should all be trained, and we all should be disciplined. Just like I would also say this too, that I prefer a dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery, in which y'all were enslaving the people like this, to only go by what you recommend be done with things that I can't defend my family. That also violates my First Amendment right, which I believe God has given me that right to defend my family, take care of my family, and it's also a God-given right He gave us. So you're taking away our First Amendment rights also by the way what you're doing in these proposals that you're making. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name's Victor Fendler. I'm a resident manager of a condominium here in town. Lived in Hawaii for 47 years. I'm here to oppose, just speak in opposition of the proposed rule changes. And I would just point out, anyone who's paying attention shouldn't understand that there's a flag right there. This is the United States of America. There's a flag right there. This is the state of Hawaii. This is the city and county of Honolulu. The authority for law enforcement is basically founded on that. And so the highest law of the land is the Constitution. And so any secondary statutes, ordinances, etc., are always subordinate to the Constitution. Case law in the Supreme Court recently, if anyone's paying attention, is making laws like this tumble like dominoes right now. Look at what just happened in Colorado a few weeks ago. And so it's kind of silly that we're being subject to these rules that the city and county doesn't even have the authority to make. They're completely unconstitutional, and it's been demonstrated with the New York State case that just was recently solved. So it comes down to the actual credibility and character of the people who are supposed to enforce, right? It comes down to the credibility and character of the police chief, the mayor. Are you guys really going to openly defy the highest law of the land at our expense? That's it. Have a great day.
How's it going? I'm Peter Roa, Range Master Certified Instructor, NRA Certified Instructor, RSO with the USPSA, and NRA Range Safety Officer. So there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about. I mean, you guys have seen the whole list. I'm going to pick one just because I'm limited to 2 minutes. Page 16, the rules of the police chief, page 16. Number 2 says that instructors have to be, for this concealed carry, have to be certified by the state and or HPD. Now, I don't know where HPD, that is supposedly short-staffed, is going to find this people. I would suggest that we give this to the same instructors that are giving the pistol affidavit class, right? If we're certified enough to give them this affidavit for them to purchase a pistol, why wouldn't they be able to just give the same test, right? That makes sense to me. Second is, from what I understand, all these rules are being put in place because you have concerns about the safety, right? Well, right now we have what's called Constitution carry in more than half of the states. That means more than half of our country has already decided that you don't even need a permit to carry anymore. And blood is not running in the streets. Everyone is fine there. Grandma is putting her firearm in her purse, and everything's good. So this concern is actually fabricated from nothing, because there's proof out there that everything's going okay over there. The last point I want to bring up is if our founding fathers were here, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and they could testify, what would they say? What do you think they would say? Because they wrote it in the Constitution, how they feel and what they said. And it says, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's all I have. Thanks for your time.
Hi, my name's Adrian Flack. I've been around firearms since I was very little. I've owned a firearm that was given to me by my father, who his father gave to him at age 16. I personally take issue with some of the burdensome requirements that are in these proposed rules regarding the training. I think it's over cumbersome to most individuals. I've been to many firearms training courses, at least 4 or 5 that I could list off. And I personally think I would struggle meeting the requirements. I think most HPD officers would probably have a hard time meeting all of the requirements. But not only is that a particular concern of mine, but also the requirement for the holster being of such a nature that it would be nearly impractical to conceal. I don't see how most individuals are going to be able to not only conceal that holster properly, but I also think that we all deserve to have rules that are permitting all of us citizens that have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms be straightforward and just all around something that we can do without such harsh requirements. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Alan Miller. I'll start by saying that I'm an airline pilot, so daily I'm trusted with 200 plus lives. They trust my training and my decision making every day. And I currently meet the requirements that are currently for CCW. So I hope that eventually we can be issued CCW with reasonable requirements. Mainly I'm going to talk about like specifics of the proposed rules rather than going into opinion or feelings. Right now there's no public range to train for these requirements for the testing, and also the speed requirement for the testing will preclude some older people who are slower or handicapped people from being able to obtain CCW permits. Second point is the current law has one firearm only allowed, and some people have multiple firearms for different scenarios or clothing requirements, or if your firearm breaks, you will be unable to carry during the time that your firearm is down, even though you have a perfectly working registered firearm. Third one is the requirements are annually. Most states that I know of are 2 to 5 years allowed for permitting. So only having the 1 year is going to be cumbersome and expensive, especially if you have to do the training and testing every year for people to take time off of work to do all of that. And the last one is the Type 2 holster requirement. As far as I know, there is no definition from all the research I've done of what a Type 2 holster is. I have found Level 2 holsters, but Level 2 holster is a subjective term, so that would have to definitely be defined clearly. And also, most Level 2 holsters are not concealable, and some of the Level 2 holsters that are out there that are slightly concealable are actually unsafe and proven unsafe designs, and they're not available for a lot of firearm combinations, or you would be left without an option for some people with certain firearms and light attachments and things like that that they would like to carry to be the most effective in their personal self-defense. Thank you.
I'm a little bit shorter here, a little bit down a little bit. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. My name is John Abbott. I'm Director for Hawaii Farms Coalition. Thank you for hearing us today. I first want to thank everyone for coming down and giving testimony. It's been great to see everyone come down and support their own rights. As I said, my name is John. I'm also an NRA firearms instructor. I'm also an electrician, and I'm an RSO, and I have trained probably 200 or 300 people in safely handling firearms in this state. I think it's ridiculous, the current proposed rules. I came down to the police department on June 23rd this year to apply for my CCW after being denied last year in light of the Bruin decision. And I am still waiting for a denial or approval of my permit 103 days later. I'm sure everyone has heard the term, a right denied is a right delayed is a right denied. That's exactly what's going on here. I'm not going to address the actual new changes to the rules simply because I feel like it's moving the goalposts. After the Bruin decision, I was more than qualified to obtain a license to carry under the current rules. But miraculously, as soon as I'm actually qualified to meet those qualifications, suddenly those rules change. If this had been applied to any other right, you would have a riot outside. Try to do this to voting. Try to increase pricing so you have to pay to go use the voting booth. And in fact, what you guys are proposing is a poll tax. It's racist, it's wrong, it's un-American, and I won't stand for it. I really strongly oppose these new requirements. Thank you for your time.
my right, your left, and then we'll just snake back around. There'll be another group of 3 that will come in shortly. We have 2 minutes. Please state your first and last name at the beginning of your testimony. So go ahead, sir.
Oh, cool. Thought we were waiting for the other 3. Sorry, I was short. Okay, my name is Dirk Silken. With the concealed carry, I feel that with the rules that are already standing, I applied over 100 days ago. I think they should stand as they are for that, and they should have been issued concealed carry. But with the new rules, when it comes to not licensing, but holstering, I think it should be a little bit more lax because there's no consideration for like pregnant women or handicapped people. They may not have the ability to, say, appendix carry with some of the holsters that are out there. They may only be able to bag carry. Let's see. That's about all I got. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. Thanks for seeing all of us today. It's been a long one for you, I'm sure. My name is Mitchell Weber, a resident of Mililani. I'm also a NRA certified pistol instructor and RSO. I guess I would really like to point out, everyone's brought up many reasons, I'm sure, and they've reiterated, you've heard the same thing over and over. I'm wondering if anyone has actually brought up the lack of qualified immunity that city and county employees have versus the state. You see, when Hawaii quickly jumped to this, as far as the new rule or policies, and even with this whole thing going on with city and county right now with this specific, or what is it called, the sensitive places, the state brought that up in New York, right? And they do have qualified immunity. And they also have a very, 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 very large pocketbook that they can use to defend themselves against this. But, I mean, city and county is opening themselves up for a lot of litigation here as soon as this stuff would go in effect. That also includes any kind of healthcare official that has to give, you know, the inspection, the mental health check that you guys were requesting as part of your new policies. They also wouldn't be qualified under, you know, they would be held liable now as well. So that's also going to put them at risk. I think we really need to take a step back and assess what it is we're going and the implications that it can lead to that we haven't initially, you know, it was kind of a jump reaction to do. Thank you very much.
A little taller. All right, can you hear me? All right. Hello, I'm Alexander Orozco. Some things I saw that were unconstitutional while browsing your rules and regs. 15 TAC 1.4 CTAC 1 is unconstitutional per Bruin, Heller, and a recent federal court ruling McCraw. It is unconstitutional to restrict citizens 18 to 20 from purchasing their own firearms, as they are part of the political and national community and understood to be part of the militia in the founding era. 15 TAC 26, unconstitutional per Bruin. You are attempting to restrict an individual's ability to carry a firearm via excessive paperwork and also conduct unlawful searches in violation of the Fourth Amendment. Requiring a certain type of holster is unconstitutional per Heller and Bruin. The right to bear arms refers to the right to wear, bear, or carry upon the person, or in the clothing, or in a pocket, for the purpose of being armed and ready for offensive or defensive action in case of conflict with another person. There is no holster requirement. Requiring citizens to submit mental health records is unconstitutional. It seems the state, according to Kavanaugh, can check for history of mental problems, but as Kaiser has stated, medical providers cannot proactively clear someone. Additionally, there is no historical standards for submitting this type of paperwork. 15 TAC 2.3, 1 TAC D. What exactly constitutes violent conduct? Without clarification, it's not an objective standard. 15 TAC 2.6F. What is the reasoning behind turning in the old license? It is a bureaucratic hurdle you can introduce to make it easier to deny an application and strip away someone's right to bear arms. Many of the rules in this document are for Second and 14th Amendment violations via Heller, Bruin, and McDonald, and it would take hours to go over it. Rather, I leave you with these quotes from Bruin. The government may not simply posit that the regulation promotes an important interest. Rather, the government must demonstrate that the regulation is consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. The constitutional right to bear arms in public for self-defense is not a second-class right subject to an entirely different body of rules than the other Bill of Rights guarantees. Now, I know you claim restrictions save lives, and you'll bring out statistics and claims, but to quote the court on Bruin, but as members of the court have already explained, the right to keep and bear arms is not the only constitutional right that has controversial public safety implications. Bruin, opinion of the court, page 8, footnote 3. Thank you.
I'm Jerry Ewan. I'm from Manoa area. I'm also president of the Pulo Rifle and Pistol Club. I'm a retired marksmanship instructor for the Army National Guard and for the Marines prior to that. I've trained thousands of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen. What I'm looking at these laws, I'd rather stay with the present rules rather than implement anything new. I think that's good enough. If you look at the holster requirements, many of those holsters aren't compatible, or the Type 2 holsters, many of them do not have that actual Type 2 retention as wanted for like smaller guns, especially the pocket pistol types and derringers. Same goes with the qualification. Many of the smaller concealed carry guns, 5-shot revolvers, would be difficult to complete the stated qualifications where you require 6 shots. Same with derringers, only 2 shots. And sometimes for concealed, people will carry what they have. If they have a single shot, it's be hard to do your 2 shots in 2 seconds. Another thing I'd bring up is the defensive use of guns are always greater than the actual gun crimes. So to prevent people from lawfully carrying these guns for their defense will probably increase the gun crimes. And that's all I have.
Hi guys, my name is James. I'm from Macaw. Can you hear? Okay. I'm gonna be fast because I'm pretty sure you guys heard everything. So, I'm against the proposed regulations on the concealed carry. Our rights should not be infringed. It is in our Constitution. No one should be able to tweak the law. As I said before, criminals are delightful and happy whenever gun laws come out. We the law-abiding citizens, are the ones being suppressed. I want to be able to defend myself and my family when shit hits the fan. Thank you.
Salutations. I'm Thomas Ryan. I'm an entertainer here in Hawaii. I work everywhere and everywhere. And now, to get to my arguments, it's racist. Yeah, I'm going there. This is actually all gun control laws were actually started during the Jim Crow era. And my family had to deal with it because the Jim Crow laws weren't exclusively for African American descent. I find them repulsive on that grounds alone, and honestly on that such, it's basically illegal in every moral and legal way possible once they actually get the arguments. But thing is, it's also not really applicable. The gun ownership, honestly, legal gun ownership, has always correlated with less violent crime in the United States. Nationwide, pick a place, find a place that has high gun ownership, you will find less violent crime. Mainly because those who are of malevolent nature, who are evil, who want to do harm, tend to steal the guns and are afraid to die when they find the person, good man with a gun or good woman. It's a terrifying thing when you're realizing someone's coming at you with a gun, but they've been called the equalizer for a reason. There's an old saying, God made us, but honestly, Smith & Wesson made us equal. It's all hypocritical. The moment there's a firearm out there in the world that's being used, given properly, we're going to call a good guy with a gun, namely you guys. We're going to call someone, period, whenever there's any type of serious violence. I myself have run into violent situations to stop, well, horrible things from happening. It's my nature. It's my family's nature. We will run into fires, done so, run into gang fights, done so. It's not something that I'm trying to give accolades for. I'm trying to state that there's going to be good people who are going to do these things. And last and not least, one of the regulations that keep coming up, I find it entertaining because it's silly, is the restrictions on so-called ghost guns, because you're not going to be able to do that. Advent of 3D printing means that people are going to be able to make these things at home. It's easier and easier, and there's only real way to actually make it so it's, well, they're not going to hide it, is to make it easier for them to carry it out properly in public. And that's my main thing. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.
Hi, I'm Angelina Mercado, Executive Director of the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and we're in support of these proposed rule changes, specifically as it relates to training, the training requirement in Section 1517. We specifically are concerned about making sure that the training is very specific and detailed as it relates to prohibited persons that are codified in our state statute, Hawaii Revised Code 134-7, as well as our federal statutes, where those who have been convicted of a misdemeanor domestic violence crime are prohibited from obtaining firearms and ammunition, as well as transferring those to other people. That's a misdemeanor crime as well. Furthermore, our state statutes require us to have very similar rules, and we are finding in our domestic violence community that that is a gap in our system. And as we propose these rules, we want to make sure that there is the safety of all of our families and all of our children. I want to point out to you the most recent case this summer in Maui. There was an abuser who terrified his partner and their children in front of their children, went to the domestic violence shelter, and ruined her car. And you probably heard that when his friend tried to intervene against this violence, shot and wounded his friend. And when the law enforcement actually found him, he was at the airport attempting to flee. So that's why it's also really important that your rules about who's coming to the state and how we're evaluating them are really important, because if it's not one of our citizens going out to another state, it could be another resident from another state coming here in the similar incident. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Vanessa Corwin, and I am with the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And we, again, like my colleague mentioned, support the proposed amendment to Chapter 15. And it's really important for me to reiterate that we really want to prevent individuals who are respondents of domestic violence protection orders and or convicted of a domestic violence crime from accessing firearms. This is a public health concern. It's a public safety issue. And it's really appropriate that this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, right? This is really an opportunity to reiterate the intersection of domestic violence and firearms. We know that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men, you probably hear that statistic a lot, experience domestic violence. So chances are there's someone in this room who has experienced domestic violence, if not knows someone that has experienced domestic violence. And we often neglect to kind of tie that connection between domestic violence and mass violence, right? And I'm not being, ridiculous here. The numbers show from the Gun Violence Archive through 2014 and 2019, of the mass shootings that happened, 59% of those were domestic violence related. 91% of those were perpetrated by an individual with a history of domestic violence. 68.2% were either domestic violence or a history of domestic violence related, right? So these things are really important to consider for public health, public safety. As someone that was born and raised here in Hawaii, I can't imagine having to go through, mass shooter drills growing up. But now youth have to, and it's really unfortunate. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Kealanahale. I'm a father of 2 kids. My point here would be basically these restrictions that you guys are trying to impose on us are pretty unrealistic. The Type 2 holster, which I think you guys mean Level 2 holster, basically doesn't exist as far as concealed carry goes. Clearly these rules were written by someone who's either been out of the loop for years or just not very savvy when it comes to any kind of concealed weaponry. My wife, we'll say my wife, she is just an average citizen. She doesn't necessarily train. I'd like her to be able to get a concealed carry permit. Not as easy as a driver's license, but relatively easy. Oh, that's all I got. Have a great day.
Good afternoon, committee. Taji Kutake with the Hawaii Firearms Coalition, and we oppose many of the Rule 15 changes. You should just use the current CCW policy, just make some alterations to it. Current policy already fulfills a lot of the requirements you're looking for as far as training, going over Hawaii laws, checking for safety while shooting a gun. That's all within current policy right now, and you should stay with it. Also, HPD doesn't have the authority to implement a lot of the changes you're requesting for in Rule 15. Anything that you propose has to meet the text, history, and tradition standard by the U.S. Supreme Court and New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin. So you should make sure it abides by that first. And also, it doesn't abide by state law because although state law is very vague, it doesn't specify a lot of the changes you're trying to make, such as requiring a second self-defense class, requiring out-of-state people to get mental health evaluations or gain even background check record, mental health check records from the mainland. So that's not in state law, and there's no authority to do such things. And also, as far as the mental health evaluations, we currently have a lawsuit in federal district court, Santucci versus Honolulu, or otherwise called the Homesick Sailor. Our attorneys, the city and the state, are currently in settlement talks to resolve that. And it's going to make major changes to not only the permitting requirements to acquire a firearm, but also what you're proposing in Rule 15. So there's going to be a lot of changes coming up from that. Try to make the cost as low as possible to get a permit, not only in money, for classes or qualification tests, but also in time. Try to make it one page, please, one page. CCW application. Arizona is only one page. And just realize the manpower requirements. I'm almost done. 8.3% of the national adult population has a CCW permit on the mainland. If we take half of that for Hawaii, that means 30,000 people in Honolulu are going to demand a permit. Just half that 8% number is 30,000. So that's going to be 120 per day. So that's you're going to have to account for that as far as manpower requirements and whatever requirements you recommend. Yeah. But yeah, thank you. Everyone's been very friendly and helpful to us, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jamie Okuyama. I'm here to support my right as an American citizen and law-abiding citizen to carry. Recently, as we all know, that there's been a lot of violence, a lot of crimes happening, and I would like that right to bear arms. And that's basically all I got to say. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Namiki Roberts. I'm also a director for Hawaii Firearms Coalition. The chief's rules that he's put forward are in contrast to state law and the Constitution. With regards to state law, we already have training requirements outlined in the law. They're in HRS 134-2. Any person wishing to purchase a handgun in Hawaii must have already taken a handgun safety class that includes state law, safe use of handguns, and includes a shooting competency. That's part of the NRA course. Maui, for example, is accepting this as its training requirement. That's what they're using to show that somebody is well qualified. So Honolulu should not be adding on extra requirements that are dictated by the police chief or the police department. This isn't making sure somebody is well qualified, it's instituting qualification. This would allow the city to be applicable in any lawsuit that would come up. Right now, with the training requirements that we have, it would be the individual trainer that would be held accountable for that should an error be made. The city should not be taking on the responsibility of training people. We're already short hundreds of police officers, and how are we going to now be responsible for training hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals to carry firearms and use them safely in the state? Previous applications were already submitted under the old rules and they should be processed as such. I understand that the chief wanted to wait for these new rules to come out, but we don't change the process on an application halfway through and then expect people to have to reapply or go through an additional method. The written method that Honolulu has in its instructions and in its policies is no longer applicable because that was never provided to the public. The policy that was provided to the public is part of the application package that has been available to people for years. It does not include a shooting qualification. It accepts HRS 134-2's training requirement as part of its requirement. I'm going to reiterate the holster requirement. The holster requirement goes outside the scope of the law. It's not required by law. This is an internal policy that discriminates against various types of firearms. It's not available for all types of clothing, and it would discriminate against the types of firearms that people are most likely to carry. Thank you guys for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is David Kikukawa, born and raised in Hawaii. Grew up in a household with domestic violence. I'm a veteran, I'm a firearms instructor, work full-time in the medical field, and own a gun shop. I'm a strong advocate for concealed carry. Concealed carry is not replacing law enforcement. What it does is it's that stopgap in between. You know, in those seconds where police can't get there, they're able to save their own life. Now, the people that we're talking about saving may not be the most proficient with firearms. They may be disabled, they may be a single mother, they may be pregnant, they may be brand new to firearms, but they live in a neighborhood that requires them to be able to defend themselves. Those are the people you need to consider when you're making these qualifications. Somebody that may not have a lot of money to practice, somebody that may not have a lot of time to practice, but you need to make the qualifications so that they're able to get that ability to defend themselves, because those are the people that are needing these concealed carry permits. So yeah, just take that into account when you're thinking about this stuff. As far as mental health screening, everybody that's allowed to possess a firearm in the state of Hawaii legally has already gone through all of that. Going through additional stuff shouldn't have to happen. And yeah, that's my biggest thing is I want concealed carry and the ability to defend yourself. You know, my mom was probably 90 pounds. My dad was, 230 pounds. There's no way she'd be able to defend herself against him. But with a firearm, she would have been able to. That's what I want. And I'm very passionate about it. So that's why I go out there and I teach people. That's why I own a gun shop. That's why I want people to have concealed carry. It's for those people. So, keep that in mind when you're making these rules. Somebody may not have the time to go out and shoot, 200 rounds a day. So they're able to meet the qualifications that you guys are putting forward. Somebody may not have money to go see a psychologist to get cleared on that background. But those are the people that need these concealed carry permits, need to be able to defend themselves. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Kaino Okaku, and I'm the president of the Hawaii Rifle Association. Originally, I had intended to bombard you guys with facts and statistics, but I think you've had enough of that today. For the training requirements, myself and David were instructors together, and individuals like us, we spend countless hours and thousands of dollars every year honing our craft because we know the responsibility of our safety and the safety of our families falls solely upon us. Then when immediate action is required, the police are minutes away. And unlike the police, who benefit from qualified immunity and the support of their union and department, we are responsible for every shot we take, and we take that responsibility extremely seriously. We know that you cannot be everywhere at once. You know that, and so do the criminals. So what we are asking for is not anything outrageous, simply the ability to defend ourselves with the best tool available. Self-defense is a natural right demonstrated at every level of biological existence. Thus far, your policies have removed the teeth from the sheepdog while leaving the gates open to the wolves. All we are asking for is the ability to prove ourselves. We're not your enemy. We're your doctors, your lawyers, and contractors. We cut your lawns, clean your pools, do your taxes, and educate your children. We want the same thing that you do, a safer Hawaii. Having people like me and David armed in public spaces makes everyone in that space safer. A publicly armed citizenry instills fear in violent criminals, our common enemy. We, the law-abiding gun owners of Hawaii, are your allies, not your opponents, and I look forward to working together to achieve a safer Hawaii. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, there is nobody left here to testify, so we're going to adjourn this hearing. Thank you. The time now is 1:21 p.m.